Hello, good afternoon and welcome to this conference. Today we'll be studying the topic Fanaticism and Mythomania. The importance of this conference lies in the fact that both fanaticism and mythomania are two defects that urgently we need to eliminate from our psychology to be able to advance in the objective work. So we'll be studying what these defects are, how they manifest, and we'll see some details that we must observe in ourselves to prevent these eyes from diverting us from the true inner work. So we will start talking about fanaticism. The fanatic is the person who manifests too much jealousy for a belief. Fanaticism is a disease of the mind. It is believing that being a believer in something, we are already saved. When this knowledge is received and it is known what has to be done, two paths open up, the path of the believer and the path of the practical. The believer believes that knowing is enough, and from that day on, he dedicates himself to pretending that he is a saint. There is already the fanatic, who will not let us progress at all. We all have within us something called the false feeling of the self, and it will make us believe that we are doing very well and will not let us progress. Above all, this knowledge is revolutionary and can only be achieved by works. On this road, progress is only made through works. If there is no psychological death, there is no liberation of the consciousness. If we are not being born sexually, there will be no existential bodies of the being. If there is not sacrifice for humanity, there is no love or progress. If we don't practice, there is no verification and experimentation of this knowledge. The practitioner understands this and begins to show his works. This totally annoys the fanatics who, driven by the defects of laziness and envy, hope to self-realize themselves without working. What fanaticism does is burying us. It makes us useless, mediocre forces, useless beings without progress and advances in the inner work. We can spend decades in this knowledge, and this defect prevents us from even starting with the creation of the existential bodies or the elimination of our defects. What it's wanted for each one of us is to revolutionize, to advance like a true soldier on the battlefield without united fanaticism, to see true results within each one of us. This defect does not let us see that we all have the subjective elements alive and that we have not eliminated them. We are talking about the ego. It also prevents us from observing that the practice is what makes the master, that we have not created the existential bodies of the being yet. And to awaken and raise the Kundalini, we must stop being traitor, disguised as tamed sheep, and that the work is yet to be done, and that the worst mistake is believing and feeling good. So now let's reflect a little on these details of the fanatic defect. And let's remember that we all have the fanatic eye within ourselves, and that the objective of this conference is that we can observe the defect within ourselves, not within others. Although our fanatical defect doesn't manifest around a religion, we will see details of this defect when we are fans of a soccer team, for example, a political party, an artist, an ideology, etc., etc. But since we are in these studies, it is very common that we begin to see this knowledge as a religion, and that we begin to fit the religious fanatic defect based on this knowledge. Having said this, let's continue with the details. Okay? So, they don't practice. The first fanatic who has achieved self-realization is not known. This is because they do not like the practice. They doesn't like to verify for themselves, even though they have the tools to do it. And that make them believers who have no wisdom of their own, since wisdom is obtained by practice and direct experimentation. They always repeat the same thing. They consider themselves to be the ones who know the most because they have been in this knowledge for so many years. They follow the books to the letter. They read a lot. They are documented with all the details and signs of this knowledge because they are very intellectual. They want to show that they know a lot. They always end up twisting knowledge and the goal of serving humanity. They search within the groups to put themselves in positions where it seems that they are working. They are imitators and like to pretend that they are working. They serve neither for good nor for bad. Also, they are followers. They are followers of people. They always want to have a teacher since they don't have self-knowledge. They follow other people who have or pretend to have wisdom. They need to be guided, advised, and always told what to do. They do not follow themselves. They are imitators. They do not make central efforts to develop their own capabilities. They affirm things that they are not aware of, things others told them. They talk about the experiences of others without understanding them. We also have the envy. They don't like people who want to show works because this reveals their laziness. They always appear criticizing their peers and detracting from everything they do or achieve. The fanatic begins to attack the practical one to take away his strength. They neither do nor let do. And when someone rushes to work to do something, they are the first to drop and point them out because they don't do anything or want someone else to do it. We also have the laziness. They think that esotericism is blowing and making bottles, that it is easy and does not entail sacrifices and super efforts. They believe that by having this knowledge, they are already saved. They talk about dying and do not die. They talk about being born but are not being born. They teach to practice but do not practice. Being able to sacrifice themselves more for humanity, they do not, because they settle for the little. We also have the tyranny. The fanatics are accommodated as instructors and managers within the groups. They catch the people who come in searching for liberation to put them in the path of the fanatic. And if they rebel, they look for a way to get them out of the groups. They think they are doing better than everyone else. They look at others as condemned because they do not accept this knowledge, because they do not respect the free will of others. They are always ready to start a controversy. They like to argue and debate. They do not admit an opinion against what they believe. They always point at other fanatics because they see the defects through the mirrors of others. They don't listen to any suggestions because they are also very, very proud. As for the mysticism, they want to turn this knowledge into fanaticism. They want to turn this knowledge into a religion. They are fond of rituals. They affirm that you have to enter the temples with right foot because the left foot is negative, but negative is what they have within themselves. They claim that women cannot direct chains of force because they are passive. They claim to be prophets and affirm things that they haven't proved. They they are always talking about tragedies and cataclysms. They like to make other people afraid, and they have the apocalyptic defect. Okay? It is important to deepen and withdraw conclusions from all this and observe ourselves so as not leaving the fanatic eye to act, and realize that all this comes from the lack of direct experimentation, which in turn comes from the lack of practice. This knowledge is not useful to us if we do not practice. This knowledge calls us to develop conscious faith, the one that develops through direct experimentation, not that blind faith that leads us to fanaticism and believing everything we see and hear in this conference without encouraging us to verify it for ourselves. We do not want followers or fans of this knowledge. We want you to take this information and be motivated to live and verify it, and to develop direct communication with your own being, the only one you should follow. Do not follow people or religions or sects. All information that comes to you must be verified and not believed, no matter who it comes from, how true and beautiful it seems. And for that, here we have given the tools. In this course, we give the theory and the way to verify these theories or any other theory or hypothesis or teachings that you find out there. We have tools such as astral unfolding, mental unfolding, and transcendental meditation, tools that allow us to access and investigate in higher dimensions the veracity of any information or knowledge. In fact, this course is totally practical, okay? So now we are going to talk about mythomania. Mythomania is a very marked trend among people affiliated with various metaphysical schools. Apparently, very simple people overnight, after a few hallucinations, become mythical heroes. We can define mythomania as the tendency to believe our own lies. Unquestionably, such people with a subjective psyche almost always manage to surprise many unwary people, who in fact become their followers, their fanatics. The mythomaniac is like a wall without foundation. A slight push is enough to turn him into ashes. The mythomaniac believes that occultism is something like blowing and making bottles, and from a moment to another he declares himself a Mahatma, a resurrected master, an enlightened being, an illuminated being. The mythomaniac usually has impossible dreams and suffers from what it is called delusion of grandeur. This kind of people usually present themselves as reincarnations of masters or fabulous heroes, may it be legendary or fictional. However, it is clear that we are emphasizing something that deserves to be explained. What happens here is that the egos of the animalistic subconscious, which follow certain mental groups, can provoke through fantastic associations and reflections something like spirits, which are almost invariably illusory forms, personifications, or the pluralized ego. It is therefore not strange that any psychic aggregate assumes a Jesus Christian form to dictate false oracles. Any of these entities, which as a whole constitute what is called the ego, can, if they desire so, take the form of Mahatma, Jesus, or any other guru. Then the dreamer, upon returning to the waking state, will say of himself, I am self-realized, I am a master. Master Jesus told me, an angel told me so, etc., etc. They don't realize they are being deceived by their own ego. So let's see now how mythomaniacs are created. It should be noted that in the subconscious of every person there is a latent tendency to take sides and to personify. Through mechanical and fanciful imagination, we begin to fantasize ourselves being heroes in our fantasies, even imagining that we are mythological beings and great masters or very famous people. Our defects take advantage of this situation to show us through subjective astral experiences that what we fantasize, that what we are fantasizing is true. We see ourselves in astral experiences being heroes or gods or great masters, or a defect disguised as a master appears, giving us the false message that we are enlightened, awakened people. So we begin to believe and reaffirm our fantasies. External situations also help. We begin to see similarities in our psyche, in the way of thinking and acting, certain affinities and similarities to such heroes and masters, and that further reaffirms the belief that we are those people, that we were those people in past lives, okay? And of course, we also have fanaticism, which is the defect that precedes mythomania. It is not possible to awaken consciousness, to fully objectify it, without having previously eliminated the subjective elements of perceptions. The essence, bottled up among all those subjective and incoherent entities, sleeps deeply. The annihilation of each one of these infrahuman entities is essential to liberate the essence. Only by emancipating the essence is the awakening of consciousness achieved. Then it comes to its illumination. Some details of this defect are: first, they are delusional about grandeur. They believe they are special beings, superiors, great masters, the chosen one, that they have been chosen for a special mission in earth, etc., etc. They lie constantly. So much they end up believing their own lies and making others believe them. They are looking for followers. They look for people who become fanatics and dependent on them. They prophesy madness and catastrophes. They frighten their followers. In this way, they keep others dependent and submissive. They are always cataloguing others as black magicians. The sincerely mistaken one, the sleeper who dreams of being awake, the mythomaniac that believes himself to be a super transcendent, the hallucinated person who qualifies as enlightened, really can and usually does much more damage to humanity than the one who has never entered our studies in his life. We are speaking in a very harsh language. However, you can be sure that many asleep, hallucinated people listening to this conference, instead of stopping for a moment to reflect, to correct and rectify, they will seek only a way to appropriate my words with the obvious purpose of documenting their follies. The worst kind of madness results from the combination of mythomania with hallucinations. This kind of people, when studying this lecture, accommodates my words to others and thinks of themselves that they have already dissolved the ego, even though they have it more robust than a gorilla. Even from this knowledge, we have been able to see very ugly things. It is frightening to see the mythomaniacs, the hallucinated sleepers, prophesying madness, madness, slandering the neighbor, qualifying others as black magicians, and so on. From here, they go out to found new pseudo-esoteric schools, and they shine like facious lights and eventually shut down, leaving confused and disoriented their followers, those who also establish the pseudo-esoteric defect within their psyche, as well as the recurrence of being deceived by this kind of people. So, well, this has been today's conference. If you have any question, you can leave them in the comments and they will be answered. I invite you to the next conference called Life and the Level of Being. We will learn what the level of being is and how we can transform our lives by increasing our level of being. Thank you very much. Until next time.